Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us the sources, a whole stack of reporting on everything from, well, extreme weather to big economic shifts and major policy decisions.
And our job is to connect those dots.
Exactly. To cut through all the noise and give you the core insights, the things you really need to know.
It's a real challenge today. The sources aren't just, isolated events. They paint a picture of a global system under some serious pressure.
Right.
It's dealing with huge humanitarian disasters on one hand, and then these fundamental shifts in finance and tech on the other. It's just a study in volatility.
That's a perfect way to put it. So we've structured this deep dive to make those connections really clear. We're going to start with this convergence of global crises, climate, and diplomacy.
And then we'll zero in on India.
Yep, looking at its contradictory economic signals and this really rapid rollout of some high-stakes digital security policy. Today is about seeing where the system is breaking and where it's building something new. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, we have to begin in South Asia. The humanitarian crisis from Cyclone Ditwa is it's devastating.
It really is. The sources are confirming this was the worst flooding Sri Lanka has seen in decades. A national emergency was declared.
And the death toll. I mean, the numbers we're seeing range from over 200 to more than 330 lives lost.
That number is just staggering.
Yeah.
It really speaks to the sheer power of these, intensified weather patterns we keep seeing.
It's an overwhelming tragedy. But what I found fascinating from a geopolitical angle is how it sort of forced some regional cooperation.
You're talking about India and Pakistan.
Exactly. When Sri Lanka needed help, immediately we saw India actually permit Pakistan to use its airspace to fly in aid.
That's a huge diplomatic footnote, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, given the history there, the decades of strained relations, to see them put that aside for a moment.
For aid, it's a powerful reminder that a natural disaster can sometimes just trump national politics.
Well, necessity is a powerful motivator. And the danger didn't just stop in Sri Lanka. Even as the cyclone weakened, it was still causing major problems in India. Red alerts for places like Chennai, Kanchipuram.
Schools and colleges were shut down, just based on the forecast. The economic cost of these things, even when they're weakening, is immense.
And if we zoom out from this one cyclone, it's not an isolated event, is it? It's part of a terrible pattern.
You mentioned before we started that global population growth is a huge factor here.
Right. It's concentrating in these really vulnerable urban centers, especially in Asia and Africa.
So why are those specific places so vulnerable?
Well, it's like a race against time between how fast cities are growing and how fast they can adapt to the climate. You've got this rapid, sometimes unplanned growth in megacities. Many of them are low-lying, they're coastal.
Putting pressure on old infrastructure.
Exactly. Centuries-old drainage systems in some cases. So you get high population density, buildings on floodplains, and then you hit them with these extreme rain events. It's just a recipe for catastrophe.
So climate change isn't just about rising sea levels?
No, it's about maximizing risk in the exact places where the world's future growth is supposed to come from.
That structural vulnerability is a profound threat. And just to put this in a global context, at the same time, the U.S. Northeast was dealing with a bomb cyclone.
Right. Totally different kind of weather, same level of disruption.
We saw Kansas City break a 40-year-old snowfall record. New Jersey declared a state of emergency. Whether it's tropical moisture or Arctic blasts, this volatility is it's a permanent fixture now.
It is. And this kind of high-velocity climate chaos is the backdrop for all the geopolitical conflict that's still going on.
Okay, let's shift to that. Let's talk about Ukraine. The sources point to a pretty significant development.
U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are set to meet with Vladimir Putin.
To hear Russia's demands directly, that's some very high-level, very delicate maneuvering.
It feels like they're searching for an off-ramp, But the off-ramps are so complicated.
Because of the core issues, President Zelensky has been really clear that the issue of territory is, quote, the most difficult obstacle.
And any talk of concessions there is exceptionally challenging. It could define the conflict for decades.
And while that's happening on one front, tensions are flaring elsewhere. Let's look at the Caribbean.
Right. The White House confirmed a second U.S. boat strike against vessels they suspect were smuggling drugs from Venezuela.
And the sources note that Admiral Frank Bradley personally approved it.
It's classic low-intensity conflict, classic signaling. The U.S. is applying pressure, asserting control.
And the response from Venezuela, President Maduro was seen dancing in public.
A very deliberate display of defiance. It's meant to project a business-as-usual image, despite the pressure.
So while nations are applying pressure and fighting, the very organization that's supposed to mediate all this is Well, it's on the verge of collapse.
The United Nations, it's a five-alarm financial fire.
The UN chief is proposing massive cuts, slashing the 2026 budget by $577 million.
And getting rid of 18% of all jobs.
It's drastic. And the reason is, what, nearly $1.6 billion in unpaid member dues?
That's it. This isn't just some accounting problem. This directly hits the UN's ability to coordinate aid for things like Cyclone Ditwa or run peacekeeping missions.
So who are the usual suspects here? Why aren't they paying? Is it just negligence or is it political?
It's almost always political leverage, a mix of things. Major powers withhold dues to show they're not happy with certain policies or to push for reforms.
So for you listening, the takeaway is pretty clear. The organization we rely on to manage these crises is itself financially insecure.
Right. Because its own members aren't paying their bills. It just completely undermines their authority when we need it most.
That idea of structural strain is a perfect transition to India, because it's an economy that's growing, but at the same time, it's flashing some really serious warning signs.
It's a fascinating mix. The caution flags are definitely up. Manufacturing activity hit a 9-month low, according to the HSBC PMI.
So for anyone who's not familiar, what exactly is the PMI telling us?
The Purchasing Managers Index. It's a survey. It asks managers about new orders, production, things like that. A 9-month low basically signals that confidence in the manufacturing sector is down. Momentum is slowing.
And it's not just the PMI, right? What other data points to this cooling trend?
Well, industrial output dropped to a 14-month low in October. And crucially, the November GST mop-up.
The tax collection.
The goods and services tax collection, yeah. It grew at the slowest rate all fiscal year. Part of that is being blamed on a rates revamp, which can disrupt things temporarily.
So the industrial engine is sputtering a bit. And on the other hand, you see the government trying to find money anywhere it can.
Like with the new cess on tobacco and other sin goods that Finance Minister Sitharaman is pushing.
It's a direct response to those lagging revenues.
It really shows the urgency. But here's the paradox. Despite all these sluggish macro indicators, the market is in a frenzy.
The IPO boom.
It just keeps going. I think December is scheduled to see something like 30,000 crores worth of public issues.
And just for our listeners, a crore is 10 million. So we're talking about 300 billion rupees. It's an astronomical amount of money being raised.
And it seems pretty broad-based.
Yeah.
You have big players like Equus, the aerospace parts maker, raising a lot of money, and then huge anticipation for Misho's IPO.
So the foundational economy is slowing, but capital markets are just racing ahead.
Eager to invest in tech, defense, specialized manufacturing. It's a real split screen.
This is where the analysis gets really interesting, though. We're seeing a new metric emerge for what wealth creation even means for rich Indians. It's moving beyond just personal net worth.
Exactly. The focus is sort of shifting from, how much can a founder sell their stock for? This new metric ranks them based on the market capitalization they have built for other people.
I find this fascinating. It's a fundamental challenge to how we often think about success in capitalism.
It is. And companies like Infosys and Grow are the poster children for this. The sources really stress that the founder's personal wealth is just a fraction of the value created for all the public shareholders, for the institutions it invested.
So it's a shift from wealth accumulation to maybe shared prosperity generation.
That's a good way to put it. It recognizes that the real financial force is the ecosystem, the broad market value, not just one person's balance sheet.
And that philosophy of securing the whole ecosystem seems to carry over into India's digital policy, too. The Department of Telecommunications, the DOT, is rolling out something pretty aggressive.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one. They've mandated that all phone makers have to pre-install the Sanchar Saathi app.
On every single phone sold in India.
Every single one. It's a massive, rapid deployment of a national security tool.
So what does this app actually do? Why is it mandatory?
Its main purpose is to fight IMEI fraud. The IMEI is that unique 15-digit number on every mobile device.
What?
Duplicating or changing those is a huge security risk. So Sanchar Saathi creates a central way to track, verify, and even disable stolen or compromised phones across the whole network.
And the timeline is tight. 90 days for manufacturers to comply.
And the app has to be visible right when you set up the phone. It just shows how seriously the government is treating digital security as critical infrastructure.
And behind all this, there's a huge push into AI. Tata Communications buying a majority stake in Commotion Inc. to fast-track its AI work.
And Apple tapping into that talent pool, too, hiring Amar Subramanya as its new AI chief. The investment in both policy and people points to a very clear national priority.
Okay, moving from the financial and digital structures to some of the cultural and domestic flashpoints, we saw some really intense commentary this week on those sensitive historical religious sites.
Yeah, this came from KK Mohammed, who's a former regional director of the ASI.
And for context, the ASI is the Archaeological Survey of India. It's the government body in charge of cultural heritage. So his words carry some weight.
They do. And he argued that Muslims should voluntarily give up the Ganavati site, and in return, Hindus should stop making new demands.
His argument was what? That places like Mathura and Gyanvapi are as important to Hindus as Mecca and Medina are to Muslims.
That was the core of it. The implication being that just endlessly fighting over these sites only continues the conflict.
It's a bold statement trying to find some kind of middle ground. But the reaction from the current ASI leadership was not positive.
No, it was swift and critical. The current chief, Yadubir Singh Rawat, basically questioned Muhammad's timing, asking why he waited until years after retirement to make these remarks.
He challenged his integrity, suggesting he should have said something while he was still a serving official.
Exactly. It just highlights how deeply polarized these issues are. Even historical analysis becomes a political act.
All right, switching gears to public safety, we keep seeing these high-impact, low-probability events testing the system.
Like the bomb threat on that Indigo flight from Kuwait to Hyderabad. It had to make an emergency landing in Mumbai.
And at the same time, we saw a major infrastructure failure. The Chennai Metro had a train just stop inside a tunnel during morning rush hour.
Right, requiring a complex evacuation. These incidents might be brief, but they really erode public confidence in these essential services.
On the health front, there was a major global policy shift this week.
A huge one. The WHO, the World Health Organization, issued its first guideline that backs the wider use of a new class of weight loss drugs.
And crucially, they're now formally declaring obesity a chronic disease.
That changes everything. It means health systems, insurance companies, they all have to start treating it with the same long-term seriousness as diabetes. It opens the door for much broader insurance coverage.
We also saw this deeply frustrating environmental paradox playing out in Delhi. The government reported a massive 90% drop in stubble burning in Punjab and Haryana.
Which is great news, right? You'd think air quality would have soared.
But the government also told Parliament that Delhi's air quality got worse.
That paradox just raises fundamental questions. If stubble burning is down 90%, it means the other factors, industrial pollution, cars, construction dust, are completely overwhelming the system.
So the focus has to shift.
It has to, aggressively, toward controlling those urban sources that are now clearly the dominant problem.
And finally, just to circle back to public health and misinformation, a viral claim was linking COVID vaccine spike proteins to a rise in rare cancers.
I saw that, and our sources confirm Indian experts came out very strongly, calling the claim biologically implausible and misleading.
That kind of swift, clear fact check is just so essential right now.
Absolutely. So to kind of pull this all together, we've tracked this global chaos driven by climate change, from the tragedy in Sri Lanka to the bomb cyclone in the U.S. And we've contrasted that with the high-speed digital and domestic changes happening in India.
Right. We saw those mixed economic signals, but a very clear shift towards security and that new metric for what corporate prosperity even means.
The key takeaway for you, the learner, is you have to recognize these two competing speeds of change in the world right now.
You have these low probability, high impact events, the metro failure, the bomb scare, the cyclones, and they're laid right on top of these slow moving but unavoidable structural changes.
Economic cooling, massive AI adoption, the redefinition of global health.
And both demand our attention. Both require us to think adaptively. But let's leave you with a final thought, one that connects our first section with our second.
Go on.
We saw business leaders getting praise for creating wealth for other people through things like market cap and shared value.
Right, the Infosys and Grow examples.
So considering that global capital and people are more and more concentrated in these highly vulnerable megacities, cities that are being hammered by climate change, should creating environmental resilience building infrastructure that actually protects communities become the next essential metric for corporate leadership? What does wealth creation really mean when widespread climate vulnerability is the biggest threat we're all facing? Something to chew on until our next deep dive.